Welcome to Mic'd and Medicated. We are coming to you from our summer studio, and this actually is a very impromptu recording session because we just met Howard and Shae, and I have to say we met them probably an hour ago, and we just started to fall in love with them and their story and said, we've got to record.
Yeah, and actually, my brother, Philip Scheinfeld, who was on this podcast a little while ago, is close with Howard.
Yes.
And met him in recovery. And sorry, I'm pausing because I think, do you hear that static sound? No? Okay, sorry. Howard met Philip in recovery 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, almost 15 years ago in a treatment center.
Right.
We were like bunk mates.
Nice.
Somewhat.
And now you're both very tattooed, but sober and clean.
Yes, that's more importantly that we're sober and clean.
Right, I agree. I mean, you could do whatever you want with the tattoos, but I think you guys actually were coming over to cold plunge and sauna, and we're like, nope, you're only plunging into the podcast. So, sorry about that. I promise we'll end where you can actually enjoy the spa aspects, which is a privilege if you're on the podcast. But I guess, do you guys want to, whoever wants to start, because you're both former, I don't know if you would call yourself former addicts, because does an addict ever become a non-addict?
I think the labeling really depends on the person. Some people feel more comfortable saying that, they're in recovery or they're a recovered addict. And then some people consider themselves always in recovery and always an addict. I think more so to stay close to it and not forget about that portion of themselves and to take it seriously always. When it comes to myself, I don't really care about the language. I'm a recovered addict. I'm in recovery. I'm an addict. All the things are true. And so, yeah, in recovery.
So maybe we can just start with each of you telling a little bit about who you are, and you can share whatever details you want. You can start as far back as you want, but we'd love to make sure the audience knows who you are as we dive into this conversation.
Also, before we start, I really like that you said the label thing, because it's true. And also, no matter sober or not, everybody is sort of trying to be in recovery every day. Right. Like whatever childhood trauma or whatever, anything happened. I think the problem with this new generation of people is they think they should wake up happy. Everything should be great all the time. Like we're all trying to process life, and we're all trying to recover from whatever we're going through or been through. So I kind of feel like we're all in the same boat. It's just obviously, we're all addicted to something. Right. But anyway,
Caroline's addicted to talking. So,
bam.
You want me to go first? All right. I'm Howard, and I am a drug addict and an alcoholic. When it comes to that topic, I feel like that I have an addictive personality, and I just, me saying, oh, Howard, you're good now, that's a slippery slope. Like I'm just always wanted to be reminded of what it used to look like, because it was bad. It was not fun. Sorry. Holding the mic is weird. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was such a dark and not fun place that I never want to go back there. And now, my life is great, and get to hang out with you guys and do podcasts and go surf with Phil. And that's what life should be about. But, from an early age, always felt different, felt uncomfortable with my own skin, was labeled different with diagnosis like dyslexia, ADD, was put in special schools. So I always felt different. And then I took a pill or a drink, and I felt normal. And I felt like this was my thing. This was what made me, it was kind of a security blanket for me when I took benzos or drank alcohol or opiates. I felt normal. And
what age did you start that?
I started smoking marijuana and drinking at 13, 13, 14. And then in high school, it was pills and opiates.
And were you part of a group where everyone was doing that? Like, at what point did you start to feel like I'm not handling this the way other kids who are dabbling or, you know, partying in a more kind of healthy way?
I think it was just my social group, you know, the kids that I ran with in high school, the kids that I grew up with in Monterrey, Mexico. They lived a very fast life, you know, fast paced. We want it, you know, now. And at what point did I know it was a problem? Probably in college. In college, there was a specific time that I looked at this bag of pills and I was like, it's too late. Like, it's too late to even try to stop. Like, I need to go to treatment. And that's when I went to Karen Renaissance and met Phil.
I mean, what's amazing about that is I think a lot of people don't have that moment. And they, you know, it's parents or other involvement. Like I know for Phil, it was sort of all of us around him being like, we all have that moment. And for him, he just went to Karen because he said it was easier than going to college. But, you know, what were I'm sure your family was worried about you because I don't, you know, this is doing drugs and being an addict can feel sort of like, not that it's not people, you're in your own head. So you're not really paying attention to your parents who are they worried? Like, were there people who were trying to get you there? Like your parents, like what were they doing while this was happening?
In the end, you know, I think that my parents probably thought it was a phase.
At 13, 14?
They didn't know at 13, 14.
How did they not know you were doing benzos and weed and all this stuff?
They just didn't know.
Were they not around?
Not much. I mean, they were, but I was also pretty sneaky, you know? You know, and that's just experimentation. That's not like everyday use at 13, 14. That's just like, hey, this is awesome. We're going to do this on the weekends and we got to figure out how to do it.
Right.
But that's like advanced. Like I think I was still playing with Barbies at 13.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I see it all the time. As a parent, you can choose what to see and what not to see. And even it may not even be a conscious choice. So I do think there's, you know, not everyone is built for confrontation and not everyone has the emotional capacity or comes from a family where talking about what's going on. So it sounds like from what you're describing, like maybe your parents weren't like, they weren't looking hard. They didn't want to necessarily see that anything was wrong.
Right. And I think I'm the first one in my family that's had an addiction problem. So, yeah. And, you know, I grew up in Monterrey, Mexico too, which is a different world. It's, you know, the drinking age was, you know, there was no ID. It was very easy to obtain that.
Wait, like Mexico.
Mexico.
You think like Monterey, Mexico, California?
Well, no, and I think
California,
Shae had
no.
said you were from Monterey, and I was thinking like,
California.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the OC.
No.
But why were you don't look Mexican.
No.
Why did you grow? Or I'm just
My
curious.
father worked there for a long time
Ah.
and moved our family down there at a very young age. And, you know, it was honestly like when people ask about my childhood, it was my favorite part of my childhood was Monterrey, Mexico. It was awesome. But
But
also,
it wasn't long before your parents picked up on it. You know, that was
Right.
probably part of the reasoning that you went to boarding school, right?
that was one of the main reasons that I went to boarding school. And then the learning differences as well.
Well, they didn't have the tools probably to handle a
No.
kid who was dealing with that. I think.
No, they
Not
wanted
many people
what's
do.
best. for
No,
their
I mean,
future.
Yeah.
I can't. My kids are, knock on wood, you know, they're 8 and 5, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know, I don't have the tools to deal with this meltdown. You know,
Right.
so imagine a kid who's taking
But also,
benzos.
like, yeah, but also like addiction now, like in 2025 compared to, you know, 2000, I don't know, 1 or, you know, I'm trying to 1998.
It wasn't a
Addiction now
thing.
is like, you know, it's everywhere. I mean, it's just more publicized. People know there's more information about it.
Right. The
You
veil
know,
is
back
lifted.
then it was like kind of hush hush. He's got a problem. Let's not talk about it.
Right.
But I think, you know, the accountability piece now, it's like you should let everyone know you have an issue so that everyone's aware, you know?
Mhm.
100%.
So,
And to go back a little bit, so Howard and I were recently married.
yes.
Yeah, we want to hear about you too, Shay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
were recently married. We blended together our 3 children. So we have a 9-year-old boy, 11-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old boy that we blended together, and they blended together fabulously, which is great.
That's
Feel
amazing.
very,
Kudos
very
to you
lucky.
guys.
Yeah. And we are both in recovery. We didn't actually meet within the rooms of recovery, but we did meet through close friends that are in recovery as well.
Will you tell us about your story and how, I guess just addiction, your family, you, just everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a little bit later than Howard. I was 15. Both of my parents struggled with substance misuse. My father struggled for some time, and then he got sober early on, but he was kind of a non-existent dad. So he was in a different state, had a new family that he created. So I didn't have a lot of interaction or modeling from my father. And then my mother also struggled with substances, with alcohol and opiates primarily, and also some mental health concerns. They both had bipolar too. So
Which I think is sometimes when somebody has a substance abuse, it can be that they're not diagnosed properly for a mental condition that actually needs medication.
Absolutely.
Right. So they're searching for whether it's being ADHD, searching for that dopamine hit, or if you're bipolar, you're having manic episodes of depression. Right. You need something to up and lift you.
Right. Absolutely. And also, who knows, it's kind of like a chicken and the egg situation. Who knows if the bipolar would have even presented itself had she not struggled with the substance use, or maybe it was first, it's hard to tell. But my grandparents ended up taking my siblings and I in when we were 13, because my mother was having pretty severe issues at the time with her substance misuse and her mental health. And thankfully, they took us in and raised us from there. And yet there was always a piece for me that really wanted to connect with my mom in some weird way. I decided that was a way to do it. And there was also, and there was also this idea or this question that I always had as a child of like, well, what could be so much better than us, and what is this thing that is so much more important than even your own children? And so there was a lot of curiosity there. And I think that there was also a piece of rebellion. I was like, I'm going to rebel and just like be exactly like her, and which was not the way to go. But I did. I mean, it also was the way to go, because the person that I am today has been completely created by my life experiences. And I knew there was always a problem. That was a silver lining of my story, is that, with Howard, he partied hard, before college. It wasn't like there wasn't a problem before college, but like not even realizing till college that it was a problem. I had a lot of understanding of what I was going through.
Did you get to the point where you were doing whatever drug you were doing and you thought, oh, I get how hard this is for my mom to get to like, it's almost not her choice to choose the drug? Okay. So did you let go of any resentment through that?
Absolutely.
That's actually an interesting question. I think you're absolutely right that addiction is so much more normalized, talked about. And part of that is because people say it's a disease. It's something that happens to you, not something, it's not about self-control, discipline, all of those other things. Like, do you guys believe, having both like been in it and you do it for a living, that it is a disease?
Unquestionably.
In the beginning, I questioned, sitting in treatment, like, do I have a disease? Is this like a disease, and are you born with it? Mm-hmm. And like working in the last 15 years in recovery treatment, I 100% believe you're born with it. It's something you're born with. Now, it can take many different forms, not just substance abuse. It could be sex, it could be eating, it could be gambling, but it's something that's going to, hurt your life.
Yeah, I think most former addicts that I know are, they just channel it into something else, whether it's working or it's very hard to be moderate, have moderation. I think we were actually talking to a food dietitian who really is more of like a therapist than a nutritionist. Mm-hmm. And he was like, there's very few people who can actually have moderation in life.
Sure.
It's a small group, but it's hard. Right. So I think you're probably in a bigger group as it's someone who's can be an addict than not. Mm-hmm. But also, going back to your mom, it's like the fact that also you were able to get out of it versus she didn't. Why do you think you were able to get out of it?
You know, that's a great question, and one I wouldn't be able to answer. And for me, I mean, on a personal level, that's something I look at more of a spiritual experience. It was really for me when the fear of not changing my life finally outweighed the fear of changing it. You know, when I just like got to the point where I just knew that if I continued on that path, something terribly wrong was going to happen. And I also got sober after I had children. So that was a huge motivating factor for me. Why some people are able to get it and others aren't, I have no idea. And just consider
So you
myself
were using drugs
very
like,
lucky
as a parent.
I was.
What about being pregnant? I'm sorry if I don't know if that's too much.
That's okay. I didn't with my first pregnancy, and I used mildly in my second. And that was so with my first pregnancy, I told myself if it ever needed to happen, I could put it down. So that was my justification, right? Like, okay, maybe I'm not.
You could put it down.
Yeah, maybe I'm not totally an addict, you know, or at least I knew I had an addiction problems, but maybe I can control this thing, right? If I really need to. It was my line in the sand. And after I had him and the pregnancy was beautiful and he was beautiful and I was so full of love and, you know, it like almost overwhelmed everything else and every other need or desire. And then probably 6 months in, I hurt my back and got some meds from the doctor. And then it was just a slow roll back to exactly where I had been before. And then when I found out I was pregnant with my second child, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put it down. And so it was right after I had my second child.
And how did you, I mean, like, did your husband at the time, like, did he know, was he also using or did he was also using?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that as a parent after? I mean, did you have any guilt about it or you just move forward? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of guilt and shame, more shame, I think. And it's been my experience of being able to work with other women that have also done the same thing and have not felt like they could talk about it or relate about it with anybody else. There's a reason that it happened, you know, and I was
100%. I totally am so spiritual. I've been trying to get Eva over here, who's very like data centric and like analyzes stuff. And I'm like, Eva, I feel it. I feel it. I feel it in my finger. What is it? I feel it in my toe. Sorry.
I'm with you.
That's from Love Actually. But, so I agree with you. I totally believe everything happens for a reason. And like, I think you have the kids you're supposed to have.
Right.
I mean, you can't just sit in a room and be like, everything's going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to act, but
for sure.
I think shame is actually a really bad feeling. I don't think anybody should have shame. There's no point.
Yeah.
I love though what you said, because I think it applies to so many things in life. The fear of not getting better started to outweigh the fear of getting better. And I think so many people, myself included, like at times in my life have operated from a place of fear. And it's like really hard versus when you operate from a place of strength and you're making the right decision. I'm laughing in my head because last night Caroline's daughter didn't want to get in the car and Caroline's like, make the right decision. but I think that that really resonates with me. And I imagine as parents, you could not be the parents you are today having not had these experiences because, well, I'll ask you, did going through this make you more kind of in touch with your emotions, like have more tools for coping? Like, do you feel like your parenting journey is so inextricably linked with your experience as addicts?
Yes. I feel like we're also just learning, like our kids are just turning like 12, 13. So I don't know.
Like, getting in the fun age. No,
I mean, the great age is like 4 to 7, you know, they mispronounce words, they take care of themselves. They're cute and funny. Now they have like attitude.
What kind of kids do you have that take care of themselves from 4 to 7?
No, I'm saying like,
okay, because I'm wiping butts.
They're not in diapers. You know?
Right. Okay. I was like, what kind of kids do you guys have?
They can almost wash themselves.
Yeah. But I meant even with young kids, because I would imagine, you know, there's so many moments I look back on where I should have just appreciated the moment, like had more patience, like been able to, you know, I think about like times I was too anxious to really like think about what was going on for my child or what, you know, was happening mentally. Like I
Right.
wasn't curious about the mental life. And I'm guessing you both have, just through your work, and it's an everyday, journey, you must have a capacity that is a gift, having been through what you've been through.
I agree. Whenever I was a great pretender before I got sober, it's like my kids everything was hidden. I was living a double life. I was in all these mommy groups, and, everything like appeared okay. And when
Did
it
that
comes
make you
to
believe it was okay?
No,
Okay.
not at all. My using was a constant battle of like, how do I figure this out and get out of it? But because of that, because of the usage, I wasn't present with what you were talking about and emotionally available to my kids. So even if like there was like this idea of, but I'm holding it kind of together for the kids, I knew that I was missing that huge component. And so after getting sober, it was a trudge for me in the beginning. I was in a sober living house with multiple other women with the kids.
Your kids lived with you?
Yeah, we
Oh,
had our
wow.
own room. There were some moms that had their kids there and some single women that didn't have children. I was there for a year and a half. I rode the bus with the kids, like having to take them to daycare and then go to work and then go back to daycare and back home. And then I had to make a certain amount of AA meetings each week for the house. Like it was a trudge, and it taught me so much about what I can do and who I really am as a mother, and what
I'm like in awe of you, because I think, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think there's so many women, more than we could ever imagine, who would be in your situation and would just take the easier path, which is sort of what your mom did, of not getting sober and facing life head on and doing what you did. And I think you should feel really proud of yourself.
Oh, I appreciate that. It didn't feel like, it felt primal. Like this, it was a survival thing. Like I didn't have a choice. It finally got to that point where I was like, I don't have a choice.
Right.
I can only take this path from here on out. And yeah.
Was
And
your
it's
husband?
it's really what made me fall in love with Shae, is her story.
She's amazing.
I would go on, dating a few girls, and it was just with Shae, it was different. It's like that story like makes me want to be a better person, because I would take the easy way out too. Or my daughter would have just grown up without a dad, or just not known who her dad is. And there's a lot of people out there that do that.
But you are equally amazing.
Right.
Like why don't you value your recovery the same way?
It's not that I don't value it. It's that I grew up maybe with more privilege, and that's hard for me to like, because I compare myself to others or other people's story, and they're like, well, of course you went on to these nice treatment centers. Not all of them were nice. Towards the end, they weren't the nicest, but I don't know. Like, I also went to treatment in Florida, had to take the bus, work,
I visited my brother at his halfway house in Karen. Like that was like, he worked at Jamba Juice. Like,
not cute.
It's
He did
good.
his
It's
stuff.
really good for me.
Yeah.
Because I had that aha moment.
He got
7
fired
months
like 3
into
times.
it. I had an aha moment where it's like, I can make it on my own. And that was huge for my story. Right.
I was going to say what was the difference between the times you tried and failed and the time you tried and didn't? Like similar to Shae saying she realized like the fear of not fixing things was greater than the fear of fixing things.
I think that change moves at the pace of, what is it? What do they say?
Pain.
Yeah. Change moves. Like I was just, in pain. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was miserable, and I did not want to do it anymore. So,
but you were married while this was going on.
I was.
Oh no,
this
sorry,
was
you got
before.
married after.
I got married
recovery.
after.
Sorry,
Yeah.
apologies.
So,
but were you at that point holding down a job, or were you literally like?
At what point?
Like,
he was in college.
What was the period
right out of
of time?
Right so I had just graduated and basically went from graduating college. That was the goal, to get me through college, and then straight to treatment.
And then how long from when you started treatment to when you got sober?
I was in treatment for a year.
Oh, so in a year. So that's actually, I imagine, I mean, you guys work with people. What's the, like, I know every journey is unique, but what is your experience with how, um, how long it
How
takes
long
or
it
how many
takes?
tries or what's usually the,
A year to 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the individual. It totally depends on the individual. Some people are going to get sober the first time they try, and maybe they go to treatment and the light turns on, they get it, and they never look back. That's not most people's story. Oftentimes it can be, anywhere between 5 and 15 treatment stays. It just really depends on the person and their willingness, to make the change. Because oftentimes we don't get sober for ourselves. Like, usually it's because there are pretty significant consequences or family's really concerned or whatever it might be that pushes us into a treatment type situation or into the rooms of recovery. But ultimately, it is a personal choice. Like, you have to be at that point where you're ready to make that choice. Now, will being in a treatment facility long term or working with people in recovery long term be a better outcome? Likely, because you have that time of accountability and you have the time to dry out for your neural pathways to start reconnecting as they normally should, things of that nature. So when you hear about places like Care and Renaissance that are really long term, their success rates are probably going to be a lot higher because you're not having to fight the world. Right.
The
Like
longer the better. The longer the better.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you, I feel like there's this term now called like California sober,
Mhm.
which is people who, I think it's like if you were a pill addict, you don't do pills anymore, but you still drink.
I actually think it's about people who
Smoke marijuana.
they get sober from alcohol addiction, but they still smoke marijuana.
Or like it's like they do something. They're not clean. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is marijuana.
It is the marijuana. Yeah.
Oh, it is? I thought
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
California sober means. What?
I didn't want to correct you.
Oh, sorry. Well, you should have, because I didn't understand that, because I do know people who are just gave up all the pills and they'll still drink occasionally because the drinking doesn't trigger them the way pills. Do you guys believe that's possible?
I mean, I think to each their own.
I just think like with my story, like it's all or nothing. Like if I
Right.
start smoking marijuana, I'm going to start smoking
Right.
before I surf, before I go to dinner, before it becomes like, it becomes the main event.
Right.
Do you miss it? Or like, is it a daily struggle, or are you so happy?
I think that my life has gotten so much better that it's not that I miss it. I might be like a little envious if someone's in Colorado and we're on the chairlift and snowboarding and someone like tries it. And it's like, oh, this would be nice. But like, I play the tape all the way through and I know what happens.
It's the first thought. It's not the,
it's the first thought. I was like, oh, that would be
Conclusive
so nice. And then it's like, yeah, but then it's going to lead to the pills and the cocaine. And
All right. So the other thing I have, is that now people are also using like mushrooms and psychedelics and all this stuff. Like, what is your thought on that? Like,
I just think if it changes the way I feel, I'm going to say no to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And and I agree on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
Like my thing is I wouldn't want to risk what I have right now.
100%.
So there's nothing I'm going to do, ideally, not for today,
Right.
just for today. There's nothing that I am going to do that is going to jeopardize that, there's a chance that it might not go well.
Right.
And I go right back to where I was. A lot of people are using plant medicines and a lot of people are using marijuana, or even like you're talking about drinking in place of. But I mean, to each their own. It's everyone's own journey, and we don't want to knock anybody's journey, but we've seen it go poorly a lot of times to the point where we don't want to do it. And I feel like also the last thing, in the plant medicine realm, we've seen a lot of people exploited that are struggling with addiction, and they're using plant medicine and charging a lot of money to do it. And it's just switching one addiction for another,
Yes. And it feels to me like the root of everything is about having sort of self-esteem and acceptance
regulation.
and self-love and emotional regulation.
Yeah.
But the idea is like, if you're doing things, and what you said totally, like hit me. If you're doing something to feel different, that is chemical, that is not like taking a walk or spending time with somebody you love and enjoy, or playing with your dog, like that definitionally means like you're not happy. Like, and by the way, I drink, I do other things, like whatever. Yeah. I'm not saying I never do that, but I think that the risk is when if you don't feel, if you're doing it for the wrong reason, like to feel different. Like,
right. I mean, it could even be shopping. You know, we all like shopping.
Yeah.
I love clothes. I love shopping. I love getting the package in the mail.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm sorry. I'm obsessed with Etsy. I love it.
You might be addicted to boxes.
I think I'm addicted to like buying things that are not expensive.
Yeah.
But like so I buy a lot of it.
Yeah.
You're a collector.
I call myself a collector. I think I am an Amazon addict /
But you can
Etsy
still
addict.
get, it can be anything. If you do it to excess, it's going to become a problem.
Yeah. And this happens in recovery a lot, is just switching one thing for another. And it can look like anything. A lot of times, I know the dog wants to be on
cute though.
Bunny is obsessed with her and just wants to be on the show.
I will say it feels really good. Like, I encourage everyone out there to get a dog, because if you feel even the least bit unappreciated or unloved, I mean, my dog follows me everywhere, and she is not happy unless she's with me. But do you really think people can hear her right now?
I don't know.
I don't know, but is it worth the risk? No. I mean, this is like so hard.
Is it worth the risk?
No, I was circling it back. Like, I don't know. Is it worth like taking the mushroom?
It's better to take care of it.
It's better to take care of it.
It's better to look at.
I have a hard time being serious, so I also think I'm addicted to. Yeah, like for me, going serious. Like, I like to make people laugh and be funny. So
deflection.
Yeah, I think maybe that, like, for me, this is like, oh wow, we're really going deep. But I think no, I definitely have addiction to shopping. But thank God it's not expensive stuff. Although I did see a meme that was really funny, and it was so me, and it was a picture of a dog with a cowboy hat, and it was like, I don't know why I'm always going broke. And then it was like, your dog's cowboy hat is on the way. It's just like the
for
level
$500.
of crap. Yeah, exactly. And I think, but the other thing is that's interesting is because I have ADD and anxiety, and I definitely need meds to normalize myself. Mm-hmm. But I think it's different than what you're saying about drugs, and I think we should make that clear just for people.
Yeah, I think that Shae and I are definitely not doctors, and we don't plan on it.
No, you're not going to medical school?
I think that medication, if taken correctly,
right,
and is prescribed by a doctor and taken correctly, you're the only one that's going to know that.
Right,
right.
I know that I could take a little too much Adderall and feel good with it, and like, not that I used to take Adderall, but like, I don't want to. I know myself.
Right.
You can't follow a doctor's order.
Do you take medicine for things like the dentist, or like, I'm curious how that works?
So I've had a couple surgeries. I've had teeth. I've had my wrists worked on, my shoulder worked on. And as long as it's like in the doctor's office, can you hear me? All right. If it's prescribed by a doctor and it's like administered in the doctor's office, I'm okay with it. Just don't let me go home with a prescription. That's all I ask. And I'm very upfront with them.
Yeah. And I also want to be sure that it doesn't seem like our experience is what we think is the right experience for everyone else, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that you're making that at all. I think people are just confused with what is normal. I think you're right. Like, I am obsessed with my psychiatrist in a way, like, I won't do anything that she says not to do. Like, if my doctor says, don't, have your antibiotics for 14 days and take a probiotic, I'm going to do it.
Right.
But there's people that are not going to do that.
Caroline likes to say she loves medicine prescribed.
You
love prescription drugs.
Yeah, but I also love to have like my Z-Pack or like my, like my
but
cortisol.
You're not abusing your Z-Pack.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
I'm a little Christian Scientist. Like, if I have a headache, I do not want to take it. I worked in pharmaceuticals for 12 years, and I am very skeptical of drugs. Now,
why are we called mic'd and medicated then?
Well, I was about to say, having said that, I have a friend who's a pediatrician, and she says, Mother Nature's a bitch, and she'll kill you if you give her half a chance. So she thinks not taking medication for mental challenges is like not getting Novocaine when you go to the dentist.
Right.
So I know firsthand that it was life-changing to go on anti-anxiety medication. But I do think I was probably judgy about it most of my adult life. And I kind of felt some badge of honor that I went through life like really never taking anything because I could just tough it out.
Right. Yeah. And I take antidepressants, you know, and in some ways, if like in
What are
certain
you on?
circles, I'm on Lexapro.
Okay, I'm on Paxil.
Yeah. In certain circles,
I'm on Lexapro, I think. Yeah. No,
You're on Lexapro.
Escitalopram.
Escitalopram. Yeah.
Woohoo,
Yeah.
sister.
Yes.
like that, huh?
And like in certain circles, even in recovery, people would say, well, that changes the way that you feel.
What?
You know,
For the better.
But those are
insane.
small circles. I don't want anyone to think that like that's the overwhelming.
By the way, that
sentiment.
is why you like, I think somebody who needs an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medicine would go to substance abuse if they
Right.
weren't on a medicine they needed to have.
Right.
Because
calms the mind.
well, your brain is going to work appropriately. Like for me, I have such bad anxiety. I used to like spiral.
Right.
Like I don't know what I would do if I didn't have something that sort of helped my brain go, okay, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
I hear it, but I can't do that on my own.
Yeah. I think that also with the question that you were asking about like people being curious about when or if it's a problem, I wouldn't imagine that the regular average person that doesn't have an addiction problem often questions whether or
Yeah.
not they have an addiction problem.
Oh, that's
you know what I
fascinating.
mean?
It's like
just
Mary
like-
wondering if she's pregnant or not. Like she knows or she doesn't know.
right? Like
You know?
it's just like if you're
That was a
finding
good one.
He's a
Now
funny
my
guy.
brain's working.
Honestly,
Now I'm comfortable.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm uncomfortable when we're like not making jokes. So
Yeah, same.
that is,
same.
yeah,
too.
it's like weird, right? It's
Same
like a
way.
40-year-old virgin being like,
I know.
"Am I pregnant?" No,
Yeah.
you're not fucking gonna ask yourself that if your vagina's
They
never
know.
been,
Right.
stroked. Sorry, I had to add some kind of levity to this. But yeah, you're right. If you're asking, but yeah, but as a parent though, because I don't have kids that would be at the drug age use, hopefully not. They're 5 and 8. But like, how do you know if they're like using alcohol and drugs? Like, where do you get nervous?
Well, I think that being a parent is like anxiety producing, like full stop. So if you have an orientation or you have, concerns, like you're going to be anxious about that in addition to everything else you're anxious about. And so I think that you can never know. And I think that if I look back on my, high school, college years, I'm sure somebody could have, if somebody had been paying attention, could have said, oh, wow, like you're partying a little too much. But then I finished college and I really, I'm pretty straight laced, ever since. So it wasn't an issue for me. But then I know people who, similar to you, partied in college and were doing what all of us were doing. And I meet them now in life and they're sober.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always fascinated by like that line. And I guess what you're saying, as I understand, like everything in life is it's very personal, like only you know, and only you can want to change. And I think that's like such a big lesson in life overall. It's like why Mel Robbins got so famous with the book, Let Them. It's, you can only control yourself. And so, you can try, till, the cows come home to get somebody else to do something for themselves, but or for you. But the bottom line is people operate, based on the way they want to. So, self-enlightened interest. So you can't convince somebody else that they have a problem.
Right. Absolutely. And when it comes to our kids at a certain age, like, are they using drugs and alcohol? The answer is usually going to be yes. I mean, at some point or another, just
They're
like
gonna try it.
it's going to happen, And so I think that providing them education, making sure that they know that there are resources available if anything ever becomes a problem.
But how do you handle, like, you guys are in the communities and you're working with people who are on this journey, like, how have things like fentanyl and the strength of marijuana and the, sort of normalization of marijuana, which I've always felt personally as a gateway drug, like how have you seen that impact like the rate of, or the success or the just tragedy of addiction?
Yeah, I think that marijuana is a tricky one. I think it's very individualized. I think certain people shouldn't be smoking it, especially if you have some diagnoses. Fentanyl is just not good. but you don't know what you're taking. If you're buying street Xanax or street,
Totally.
I didn't even know that was a thing
pills.
until like a few weeks ago. Street
Yeah.
Xanax.
I mean,
What does that mean? Like,
if you're
It
buying
means you
Adderall
don't get
on
it
the
at Dwayne
street-
Reed.
Yeah, if you're
You
buying
get it on
Adderall
the
on the
street.
street, it's methamphetamine. If you're buying pills or Percocet, it's definitely.
Well, and it looks like a regular Xanax
It looks
or a
like-
regular pill. So people
But
will
you're buying
think
it from a
them.
you're buying it from a drug
From a-
dealer.
Yeah,
from
you're
the
not
street.
getting it from the pharmacist.
But
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids get it from their parents' medicine cabinet.
Totally.
For sure.
Not from a pharmacy.
No, but I think most people now, I don't know. I think people are buying it from
Bunny,
drug
don't
dealers,
do
right?
drugs.
Either way, it's
Yeah,
both.
either way.
I mean, but
But you're not getting fentanyl if it's your mom's prescription.
No,
No.
of course not.
I'm
when
saying,
it
but you're-
comes to
Hopefully not.
fentanyl, yeah, that's coming from dealers for
Unless
sure.
she's buying it on the street.
Oh.
Just joking.
Is there
Shit.
fentanyl? Is there fentanyl in marijuana?
That's a good question.
I think that I remember reading something about some lacing in marijuana. I mean, it would make sense just because it would seem like a really dopier stone, like high, right? But I don't know if that's been so much of an issue. What we were talking about earlier has what I've noticed is more of an issue is with teenage or young adult men or boys smoking marijuana, especially the synthetic versions. Going
Is that
into
is that like
psychosis.
the synthetic one? Is that a what is it called? The
vape?
the vape? Is that what you mean?
No,
Sometimes
Delta 8, the
it's
Delta
a-
8,
it's
whatever
a-
the
strain?
yeah.
Oh,
And so you can
Buy
get
it
it
at
at
the gas
gas
station.
stations.
Jesus.
They sell it in gummy form. Like you can, it's so easy to access.
Because it's legal.
Yeah.
And is the legalization of marijuana now countrywide? Is that national or is it still state by state?
No.
State by state.
And so there's synthetic and there's not. Why would anyone want the synthetic over the natural
It's
marijuana?
probably cheaper.
It's easy to get. It's cheaper. And in places where it isn't regular THC cannabis isn't legal, it is legal there.
So
Like
how
in
do you see the
Texas, it's like
psychosis?
that.
Oh, in Texas, it's what?
It's not legalized.
Mm.
So does that mean people are buying the synthetic shit?
I mean,
Both. I mean, it's
Both.
still, like people still get their hands on illegal drugs. That's never going to go away, but
Yeah, no,
But
I've
it's
actually never
both.
smoked pot, which is crazy.
yeah.
I'm not proud of it, actually. I think
you're
at this
not
age,
proud of it.
You know
I wish
why?
I never did drugs.
I kind
ever.
of feel like I don't know what that, when people are like, oh, the munchies or any of that experience, not that I need it. I also I wasn't a big drinker in college at all. Like I was kind of like, everybody looks disgusting and drunk and this is weird. But now I'm like, tequila.
Caroline was too sophisticated.
No, but I actually just never wanted to lose control. I also wasn't
Yeah.
stressed. Like I was stressed with work, but like now I have two kids. We're at dinner and they're screaming and a meltdown. I'm like, I'm going to have a tequila,
Totally.
Yeah.
versus I didn't need that in that moment. Not that anybody should need something, but
No.
you understand.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it. It wasn't like helping with the food, etc. But no, the other thing that I thought, I just came back from Italy, which is so interesting to me, the substance abuse there being normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about the people on vacation. It's even just like the Italians. It's like everybody smokes. Everybody has that vape thing on their table. They're drinking at lunch, bottles all day. It's like vacation is a weird thing for like where the line is, but it's also like, I think the lifestyle is just, and they probably, I don't know if they don't get into the pills or what, but I feel like the Italian culture, like I feel like they almost live longer, but I don't know what is going on there. But do you guys ever feel like when you go to Europe or you go on vacation and you watch people or just seem to be abusers?
I mean, we
I don't know.
notice
We
it,
kinda-
but
I mean, even here, like
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going
we're
to
not
ask,
even
is it
surrounded
hard?
by it. Like we just go to dinner and then maybe do a little surf, a little exercise, and go to bed early.
yeah, but I
Do
mean,
you
of course
hang out?
we
Like,
notice
do you-
things.
Do you selectively like spend time with people who don't drink? Because, like, for example, when I see couples where one is sober and one is not, like,
It's a good question.
is that a hard dynamic, or do you find like you can go out with friends who are drinking and
I
it's
can go
no
out with
issue?
friends that are drinking. I'm just not going to spend all night there. I might go for an hour.
Because it's
you know?
boring
It's
if you're
boring.
not drinking with
Well,
everyone
it's not
else.
that it's boring. Everybody starts to look stupid.
That's
Well, they start
also
repeating
true. And they're not
themselves.
going to remember the conversation.
It
it's
just gets annoying.
yeah, but we have a lot of friends and acquaintances that drink around us. It's
But what I meant, even it's not that I was like in a certain area. I'm saying like in Italy, like everybody, like my
Right.
husband and I are not day drinkers. Like he is not like, so we're going to go to lunch and, every couple but us is like getting a bottle of rosé, or we're on her fourth espresso or cappuccino, where they're rolling an eye, like who gets a cappuccino at 2, because it's a breakfast food. I'm just saying, like, it is a weird culture on vacation or with Europeans.
Certain cultures drink a little bit more than others, and I think that that's just normal. I don't know.
Well, I've always said, like, people like to make the argument, oh, when you look in Europe, like the drinking age is 18, so everyone's just so much more mature and you don't see binge drinking. And I think that's totally not true. And I will never forget, somebody came to my son's school and they presented some longitudinal study, and they basically said, like, when you're permissive about drugs and alcohol, you're more likely to have a child grow up with substance abuse and alcoholism. So I always have a zero tolerance policy, but I fight with everyone about it, because they're like, your kids are going to drink and do things. You might as well say, be safe if you do it, or only do it at home.
I want them to be able to tell you. I always tell my kids,
Shay's
even right.
That.
Yeah. Like
they come to Shae with issues,
Well, I'm like, if you lie to me, that is the biggest offense. Like, that is like a no. You always can tell me what you're doing or what happened and you're not in a good place and we can deal with it, but never lie to me. I will never be mad at you for coming to tell me the truth.
That is the most important.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to know is, like, you guys we've been talking a lot about just experiences and addiction. Like, what, you guys have your own business, or like, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah.
We do. We have kind of a mentor sober coach company in Austin, Texas, and
what is it called?
Woo-hoo, Austin.
It's called the Lumos Group, and we help families and loved ones that have a loved one that struggles with addiction, and we meet with them. We meet with them in their daily life. So I used to run a treatment center, and then when Shae and I got married, and we made the company even smaller and more a la carte, to
More intimate.
So, like, would you guys be hired to go help somebody have an intervention?
We would probably refer out, and interventions that we know, we'd probably refer them to that individual.
Mainly because we're not licensed in interventions. We don't have the training for it. We've thought about, actually.
I've done the training, but years ago. It's not my deal, though.
I would be the interventionist out of
I
the
feel like
two.
Honestly, you'd be really good.
I thank you. I
think you should take. I think you should take the license.
I'm planning on taking the training,
because I think I don't know. You've got you're very calming, very beautiful, which honestly, like, attractive people, it helps. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like vapid, but it does. Like, and you've got a very calming but like strong presence, and I think that's what someone needs.
Well, and I also think both of you have like very like accepting energy, like you're non-judgmental. And I think shame plays such a big role in all of this. And I think like societal shame used to probably be the blocker why people didn't admit if their loved one or if they had a problem. And like, it's so common now, because I do think things like therapy and like, talking about your mental challenges is common. And I think really like what holds people back is shame.
Right. Absolutely.
You want to talk about
fear.
the Lumos Group a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm glad that you said that about the accepting piece. When it comes to, it's a really hard piece for people coming into the recovery world, if they haven't found their place in that. Right. And so a big part of our job is meeting people truly where they're at, and working with any preconceived ideas or notions that they might have about recovery, and really looking outside of that box, right? So, for instance, we even have worked with people in the past that are more on the harm reduction scale of things, like still cutting down on usage and working with them until they hopefully get to a point of full recovery, where oftentimes like treatment facilities, things like that, you have to be completely abstinent or they won't. It's absolutely
a hard line. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to be completely abstinent, or really they just don't know what to do, and it's a lot more work. Right. And so whenever it comes to individuals that are struggling and their family really wants to get them help, but they're really resistant to treatment, or they're not sure, they know that there's a problem, but they're not sure if it's so significant that they necessarily need treatment, but they need some direction, or business professionals that can't take off the time from work to go to treatment, but need some help, things of that nature. People that are struggling, young people that are struggling with what we call failure to launch. And that's where just getting the job, getting to a place where they're living on their own, basic life skills are failing, right?
You could have
And
a
they need that
very
next step.
huge company because drug addiction aside, I think we have a failure to launch problem with the next generation.
And that's the
Totally.
freaking best name I've ever heard. I forget Lumos. Failure to launch, guys. Teach kids how to write a check and balance a checkbook.
Yeah.
Well, we do a lot
Checkbooks
of all
don't
that.
come with a starter $5,000.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's a lot of what we do. So we're working with individuals one-on-one. It's going to depend absolutely on their needs, right? Like a kid that's struggling with someone that's 18, struggling with failure to launch and just like wants to kind of, party every weekend and play video games in between or whatever it might be, is going to have incredibly different needs than a business professional that's successful and like has barely enough time to do this, right? Like it's going to look a lot different. So we really want to bring them into recovery communities, introduce them to those communities, really build relationship. That's probably the main piece, is building relationship. So just like you were talking about, like you with your kids, just don't lie to me, right? I just want you to know that you can come to me and tell me anything. That's what we want to be for our clients, is like, anything can happen and we're not going to judge you for it. And
you're like an accountability partner.
We're going to be right
And
here
nothing's
with you.
going to shock us.
And we're
We've
going to
heard
figure
it
out
all.
what the next
Heard
steps
it, done it
are
all.
to get
Oh,
you back on
man.
your feet. Yeah. And then we work with families a lot. I love working with families.
Shay's
That's
good
kind
with
of
the families.
And you're not.
It's not that. I like one-on-one with the individual. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I just like, I'm a firm believer in boundaries. And I like coaching that and teaching that. And
I love boundaries because I hate people. So I feel like I need to always set them.
So wait, not that you're a parenting expert, but when you talk about setting boundaries, limits setting is hard for a lot of people. Are there any sort of transcendent principles or ways you would recommend setting boundaries with anyone in your life, whether it's related to this topic or not?
Yeah. So when it comes to setting boundaries, it goes back to like what we were talking about earlier, where you were like, it's a personal choice, like always remembering that my boundary is a personal choice. And it's leaving no expectation of how people respond to that boundary, right? Just because I have a boundary doesn't mean that the other person has to respect it. I will use how they respond to that boundary with what my next decision is regarding the relationship. And it's the same with parents that have kids that are struggling with substance use, right? So having the boundary when it feels counterintuitive, especially with your children, because they're hurting and they're suffering and they're saying, I won't be okay unless I have this thing or unless I have it my way. And you have to, and it's easier with young children because we know we're more intelligent, right? And they're maybe not as sneaky yet.
Right. They're not as manipulative.
They're not
Although
as
my kids are very
manipulative.
manipulative.
Right. And so being able to be that, to be loving and supportive and set the boundary and like being available to them emotionally, but not in so many other ways, is so hard. It is such a hard thing to do, to say, I love you. I'm only going to love you in the ways that you are supporting yourself.
Right. It's loving it, but not enabling.
Loving, but not enabling. And it's a fine line. It's
and
hard
being firm.
to,
you got to be firm.
and you have to be firm, and it's different for people's situations. And like, it doesn't have to be, another thing with boundaries that I think is so important is it doesn't have to be rigid. Like there are some boundaries that, yes, should be rigid. There are some boundaries that should be more flexible, but I think that mostly boundaries should be somewhat porous, like there should be like a little bit of
bend like the willow.
Yes.
I think the Buddha says that. I have just one last question for you guys, and then is the cell phone. Okay. So I think this is like the new social
With
media.
the kids,
yeah, it's the new
It's a problem.
It's the new drug. It is
It's a
TikTok.
problem.
It is,
but it's everywhere. I saw it with your child
All of our
out
kids.
here.
Yeah.
I was like, man, thank God I'm like normal, because I have the same conversation with my daughter.
Right.
I mean, it's addictive.
I don't know.
It is. I was addicted to Block Blast for a little bit.
I didn't grow up with a phone. I was out running around, bicycles, tennis, golf, and whatever the activity was. And now it's like Yeah, it's a problem.
No,
Okay.
it's terribly. It's the same thing we've been talking about. It's a dopamine rush, especially when it comes to Instagram Reels
Or people
TikTok,
liking your stuff.
people liking your stuff, or YouTube Shorts is a big thing with the kids. You know, and it's that like quick dopamine hit, and you'll
It's so
see
fucked
them,
up.
and they're just
And then
And,
their
like-
their mood totally changes.
Yes.
Like we can take them out, do an activity. So Shay and I talk. I try to get them outside for at least 1 to 2 hours a day and go do an activity with them when
Yeah.
they're not in school. Like
Yeah.
we will go, you know,
they
whatever it
are
is,
in school.
hiking, swimming, surfing. We really like in the summer, we really try to get that. And then kind of which is sad is like the reward is the iPad. That's where I struggle. It's like, okay, well, you know, and maybe that's my parenting. And
No,
I'm
but I
more
think
the
if you take
enabler
it
than
away,
Shay is.
if
It's
you don't
unrealistic.
let them have it at all, then they become psychotic about it. It's like the parents who only have healthy food at home.
Well, it's also you can't teach them healthy boundaries around it.
Yeah.
But actually,
if they have no access to it.
there's a new study out, and it's conclusive about all of the harms of social media
Mhm.
and iPhone screen usage. And I think there's going to be a movement to wait. They're advising, you know, under 13 should not have access to phones or social media. And I feel like we're going to, like personally, like having a 12-year-old, we're going to miss
Yeah.
that. But I do think, you know, with younger kids, I bet there's going to start to be packs, like, because they said it doesn't work if not everyone does it, because then you're just
Right.
on your friend's phone, or so it's kind of like, I mean, I think they compared it to, you know, an alcohol limit, like having to be 21
It's
to
scary.
drink.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm not
like it at
surprised.
all.
I don't like it at all. And I think,
I don't even like talking about it. 'Cause,
no,
like,
can I just say something crazy?
Same.
Yeah, my
Wait.
daughter is the same. You know, it's like she gets the joy from the iPad.
Well,
And-
also then she's going to get
and
all
it
this
scares
body
me.
image shit. And like,
Yeah.
let me tell you, we had a viral video. Okay. It was my husband walking ahead of me at the airport. And I thought it was funny because he wasn't waiting for me. We had like, I don't know, 100 followers on TikTok. I had over 3 million views. This was while I was away. Comments were brutal. Like,
Yeah, people are mean.
get a divorce,
So
need a lawyer.
toxic. And I have to say that when Carolyn called me and was like, "Oh my God, you have to look at our TikTok, it's blowing up," and I went and I started looking at the comments, and my first thought was, "Oh my God, our children do this every day on a small scale." Like my daughter does a TikTok dance, and who knows what the comments are? Hopefully they're all positive, but like, as an adult who has self-esteem, I started to be like, "Oh my God, these comments, like it's hard to have a thick enough skin."
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
people are nasty.
People are nasty.
Totally.
I think we should have people should just get rid of all social media except follow
And they're
us.
being they're being nasty to get like other people to like their nasty comments.
Oh yeah, it's like
a
called
very
rage bait.
strange-
It's
Yeah.
rage bait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
weird.
rage and then they bait other people to rage. I can't even tell you.
And
It's
people
insane.
are also just getting really dumb. Like it
Yeah.
as a
Yes,
parent, when you
absolutely.
watch your child scrolling, it's just, you know, there's a chart of like how much time you have in this world, and it's actually a really just depressing but important stat, which is you have spent 95% of the time you will have with your child by the time they turn 18, because after that the amount of time you have with them
They're out.
is
Yeah.
diminished, you know, exponentially. So when you think about like the time
Hmm.
loss, the hours spent, and for us too, and I do feel like it's a battle. I'm not a phone person, and I really try to put it down and be away from it. And it drives my husband crazy. He can never reach me. But then like so much of my life, like I can't actually schedule the play date. I can't actually order groceries.
Right.
Like I try to put my phone away and not use it all day, but so much
Yeah.
has to happen. Like everything has been consolidated through this awful
It goes back to
screen.
moderation. You gotta just
Yeah.
do it in moderation.
But then like my husband will be like, "You didn't answer that email." I'm like, "Well, I was with the kids. I wasn't looking and then I
Right.
missed something important." I think we all have to
Right.
just move somewhere a little bit more low key.
Well, it's again like the boundaries thing where
Right.
like you just can't have an expectation of how the other person shows up, you
So
know,
wait,
and you have
tell
to
me
like
this, tell
own
me
it.
this. Okay, wait. So practically, what does that mean? Because
So I
I'm
have a
working on
girlfriend.
boundaries.
I have a girlfriend that is the most boundary person I know. And when it comes to her personal space and quiet, like she's so boundaried. Her phone is always like it's never accepting notifications, you know, it's always like on silent mode. And she'll get back to you when she feels it's right, which is crazy that we like have to instantly respond to things. You know, it's never been like that in the past. Like you get a phone call, you get a voicemail, you would get a voicemail and have to return it, and you would return it on your own time. You know, you wouldn't be like, oh, I got a voicemail, I'm going to call them right this second. You know, this is like on an answering machine before we had smartphones, or you get a letter in the mail, right?
Days, like my school, I just want to have like a packet with a pamphlet and like papers and like, let me write it and mail it back to you. I don't want to have to go on 18 databases to like, it was hard enough getting my kid in the school. Now I can't even stay in the school.
But with boundaries, there's going to be some fallout. People aren't going to understand it, you know, and
I'm just considered very, you know, people call me RSVP as pending.
That's perfect.
But what I'm hearing you say, and we can end on this unless you have any other questions, Caroline, but I feel like I learned so much today. And one of the most important things I learned is you're saying you have to set a boundary for yourself, by yourself, and you can't be swayed by then, because like I'll set the boundary, but then the feedback I get informs my next move. And I sort of feel like as a parent, you have to set that firm boundary and say, I understand you're disappointed, or I understand, but it's about not letting that influence. Like I almost feel like I can't have porous boundaries if I'm going to do it well.
That's fine. And because that makes sense, especially as a parent, because some of those boundaries are going to need to be firm. And if you're constantly like, oh, okay, you know, then the boundary is pointless because they're going to know that, you know,
and like we have to lead by example. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard when like you are on your phone for a lot of stuff. It's like everything's hard. I'm like, I can see my kids just got home from camp and luckily there's someone in the house, but you know, I'm doing the podcast. I don't want them to think like, is my job more important than them? But like, this is important. It's showing mommy's doing something. Like you can't win. I feel like, it's very hard. Like you set the boundaries, you think they're okay, then they're not okay. It's
the boundary is, because I have a friend who works from home, and the boundary is you may not come in while I'm working. And there can't be an exception. So then the kid understands you're not paying attention to me because you're working. But then when you go out, you leave everything here and you're focused on them. The lack of boundary is like they walk in, you're chatting with them, then you walk out, you're still working.
Well, you and I are terrible at that. We're like ADD and we're like kind of working, kind of parenting, kind of working, kind of parenting.
I think it all blends together. Like with what we're talking about boundaries, he keeps mentioning moderation. I think that goes for the wellness portion too. You know, if like you're so hyper focused on like doing everything perfectly all the time, then you're bound to fail. You know, and so like the wellness
being perfect
portion,
is so freaking boring.
It sucks.
It sucks. I hate it.
I don't know who notices it but yourself either.
Right. No, totally.
You know?
It's a bar that you've put up for yourself that only you can see.
Yeah. And actually, it's what we always say to our children, which is like, don't look back. Like you always have a choice to make a new decision, to do it different. So like nothing can't be sort of changed or pivoted or.
Well, unless you like murder somebody, that's pretty fucked up. Hard to pivot or change, but yeah.
And I try to remind myself not to take life too seriously.
Yeah,
it's really
just
short.
Relax. No one really cares.
La Dolce Vita, man.
Each other out well.
By the way, Italy, La Dolce Vita. They fucking know what's up. All right, like they are tan as hell. They look like leather skin.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not cold plunging. They're not sauning.
No.
They're smoking all day. We're now not telling anybody to become addicts, but they're eating fresh food that they just grow. They're enjoying it. They eat lunch. Honestly, the lunches were too long. Couldn't sit for them. I'm such a New Yorker. I couldn't sit. I was like, where the fuck is the food? I got to get to my book. Like this is too, but I think we got to slow down. And La Dolce Vita, La Dolce Vita. I don't know how to pronounce it.
And I think ending on that note, Howard, like, let's not take life too seriously. I think that's why we did this in the first place. And I think talking to you guys, like, it's sometimes good to get out of your New York City bubble, which we're in, and meet people and hang out with people who like have a different kind of rhythm and flow. And I feel lighter and kind of more relaxed. So thank you.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. And by the way, we're not saying, but don't take life seriously, that go and do drugs and be crazy and reckless. We're saying you know, don't sweat the small stuff. And also big picture, right? Like these little moments, like you always say, find something that makes you feel good. That little moment, whether it's your hot coffee, it's like the touch of a book, it's like your kids smell, like just those savoring those things and focusing on that, I think will help everybody just be be better people. And, I don't know, maybe we all need to move to Monterey, Mexico and just surf.
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can surf in Monterey, but
sorry, I don't know. I'm very bad with
You're thinking about
geography.
Monterey,
I am thinking about
California.
Monterey, California. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar as much with Monterey,
we keep
Mexico.
wishing you're like from the OC.
By the way, the OC is Southern California, but that's like California's
Orange County.
Yeah,
Orange
that's very
County.
different. He's from he's not from Monterey, California, but if he were,
I'm
it's
from
north.
Texas. Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to post. And how do you spell
I'll
your?
let Shay do that.
Okay, Shay, do you want to just give a little plug?
The Lumos Group. It's LUMOS.
And we're going to tag you guys because even though we think social media is destructive, we hope you follow us and like us because no more trolls. And thank you so much
thanks for having us.
for being
Thanks for
so just quick to
Yeah.
do this. And you guys can sauna and cold plunge now. And
All right.
this was really special and awesome. And I feel like you took a lot of my anxiety. I don't know. I felt like calm.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I feel really privileged
and
that
being
we got to hear
vulnerable
your story.
because that's hard, man. So
And that's what we're all about.
and you guys are awesome and you are
Y'all are
inspiring
awesome,
us.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys.
Yeah, thank y'all. All right.
Mic drop.